total amount that can be tokenized in the world, it's like 800 trillion plus. I think there's still a lot to do in this space. So I think we're still very early. We are building a decentralized operating system for AI, and it's really the breakthrough that's required for AI to serve humanity. We wanted to build something at the intersection of what are we passionate about, what's a major unlock for the space, and where do we have deep domain expertise. Web3 really is a completely different mentality. It's one about ownership. It's one about how do we work together without needing to trust another party.
GM, everyone. Welcome to OnePiece Labs Web3 Talks. We are honored to invite the founder and the CEO of the most hottest Web3 AI project, Zero Gravity, Michael here. So, hi, Michael.
Nice to be here. Thanks for having me, Dafu.
Thanks for joining us. Without further ado, could you please introduce yourself a little bit?
Absolutely. So I'm Michael. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Zero Gravity, or Zero G as it's known as well. And we are building a decentralized operating system for AI. And it's really the breakthrough that's required for AI to serve humanity. So that's the kind of core idea behind what we're doing. Myself, I started out on the technology side. I was an engineer and technical product manager at Microsoft. Before I switched to the business side, I worked for Bain & Company, Bridgewater Associates, and started a unicorn Web2 company as well. That was a top YC company before embarking on the Zero G journey.
Perfect. Yeah, so Michael is an old friend of mine. I've known Michael for about 10 years. Oh my God, time flies. And at that time, Michael was working on a Web2 project, which was also very, very successful. And I know Michael worked also as a miner for blockchain at that time. So what do you see as the amazing things and parts about blockchain or Web3?
Web3 really is a completely different mentality. It's one about ownership. It's one about how do we work together without needing to trust another party. So it's very different from a centralized Web2 perspective. In Web2, you're basically, let's take Web3 and AI, for example, you're trusting someone like OpenAI or Anthropic to do the right things with AI. So in effect, you have this sense of closed AI, and you have no insight into how the model was trained, what the weights and biases are, where the data came from, how the data was labeled and cleaned, and what the censorship decisions were made. You're just trusting an entity to do all of that for human benefit. And then you've got the decentralized world where you don't have to trust, you can actually verify. You should be able to see the provenance of the data, what happened with the data as it went through all the way to model training and then using it in inference. You know what version of the model you're getting. So it's open, it's decentralized, it's safer, it has full provenance, it has complete ownership of an individual's data.
Yeah, in Web3, we care about the privacy and the ownership of ourselves. So that is why we built this decentralized infra and apps, different stuff. And we believe that Web3 can definitely bring us full control of ourselves, everything related to ourselves. Perfect. So I'd like to learn more about Zero G itself. Can you introduce more about Zero G? And actually, I'm really interested in this name, Zero Gravity, where it came from.
Yeah, the origins of the name, we played around with a number of names, but Zero Gravity really stuck with us because our fundamental view is that infrastructure should really be invisible to the end user. Like we were, for example, joking around and saying, hey, nobody is waking up in the morning and really wanting to use this bridge today. It's like a necessary evil to get something done. So how do we create infrastructure that's really invisible? Like, for example, if you use a Web2 app today, like Netflix, you don't go onto Netflix and then say, okay, which encoding algorithm do you want? And then which payment provider are you going to use? And select this AWS server that it's sitting on. Like none of that's happening, right? It's like completely invisible. It's in the background. And so similarly, we thought that we should be building infrastructure that's weightless, that's, has a zero gravity state. The other fun thing association with it is too, I'm a big meditation fan, and I meditate quite a lot, twice a day. And so it has that association too, because in meditation, you can reach the state of going beyond your thoughts. And so, it wasn't initially part of the name, but then afterwards I thought, oh, there's actually a cool meditation theme to it too.
Definitely, I would say that's really a good name. And yeah, so regarding this Web3 stuff, I'm also interested about the technology advance of zero G. So among all these AI Web3 infra, other dApps, other projects, zero G became very, very successful, especially on fundraising. And right now, I believe you are building very amazing ecosystem. So what makes zero G stand out among all the other projects?
We took very much of an approach of building it layer by layer. So the first thing that we realized is, for example, if you ask a lot of Web3 projects in the space, like, where are you hosting your data? And 90% of the time, maybe more than 90% of the time, it's going to be, Amazon or Google Cloud, some centralized solutions. If for whatever reason you end up building a model and then one of these centralized authorities basically says, hey, this is competing with us, they can just tell you, we can't store this model here anymore, and please move it somewhere else. Otherwise, you're breaking our terms of service. So in effect, they can censor you. So we basically said, okay, this is not a world we want to live in. We should have full freedom to build whatever models that we want, whatever kind of open source software that we want. So storage is a very fundamental, like, primitive in that. So we started at the data storage layer and basically created it in such a way that you can store any type of data found in Web 2. So it's not just cold storage, but also key value store. It has transactional data on top of it. So you can really build anything that you can build on the Web 2 side with disaster recovery built in, and of course being up to 80% less than kind of centralized solutions. Once we figured that out, then we said, okay, well, how do we fix kind of this data throughput issue? Because if you look at model training, for example, as a use case, you need something like 1 million times more data throughput than Ethereum can provide. And so 80 kilobytes per second, 100 gigabytes per second, and even more for like InfiniBand type of applications. Like, how do we bridge that gap? That's a huge gap. And so we needed to figure out an infrastructure that's parallelizable so that we can reach these kind of throughput levels. And so that's another thing that we were able to figure out. So basically building the fastest, most programmable, most secure infrastructure that allows for these AI type of workloads. Once we figured that piece out, then we said, okay, we've got kind of the core data components. And then there was a lot of companies already providing kind of the core hardware and compute power. We said, well, we need now a coordination layer that can create open, verifiable, coordination so you can have AI fully on chain. And so now we're building that and hopefully releasing that within about a month or so.
Definitely, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, also echo back on the previous question. You mentioned about the hiding the feeding of the Web3 technology. I think that's also very important stuff for us Web3 founders. It is just like Wi-Fi technology or Bluetooth technology. When we use our cell phones, we never talk about, hey, what kind of protocol are you using on Bluetooth, right? We just use it. So hopefully, yeah, one day in the future, everyone gonna use Web3 dApps or infra just like this. And we are looking forward to mass adoption from Web 2 to the Web 3. Cool. Yeah. And one more thing. So actually, OnePiece Labs, I was honored to work with Zero G on the very first AI Web3 Zero G cohort. So frankly speaking, I'm really proud of them. And we selected 10 teams out of hundreds of applicants. And I want to collect some feedbacks from you. Like, how do you feel about our cohort? And how do you feel about the demo day? And is there any product you think that's going to be very, very promising?
That's like asking which of your children are your favorite children.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
So I don't know if I can just answer it in that way, but
Yeah.
I feel incredibly proud of the work that we did. I mean, our first accelerator, I think, was done super well. We've had very strong companies, some that came in and became quite late stage as they were going through the accelerator, like Carve and Cygnus, for example. And even there, we were able to offer some support to those teams, whether it was through investor introductions or thinking through some type of like liquid strategy. Or thinking through kind of the narrative pieces. There was something there for everyone. And so I felt we combined as partners, Zero Gravity and OnePiece Labs, really put a very strong effort into it and built a very, very strong cohort. and I definitely see a number of these companies can be leaders in their specific niche. I know, for example, we touched on multiple ecosystems. So there was a Bitcoin kind of payment application named Vishwa in the batch as well, alongside with someone kind of creating Robinhood-like experiences for Web3, Nine Suns, to like AI applications and actually creating game-specific things like Infinity Ground. And so it was just really cool to see kind of that explosion of creativity happen in our accelerator. And then those teams basically not only kind of successfully fundraising, but then also really implementing our core infrastructure into their systems and enabling what they want to build for themselves. So overall, I think it was a very successful cohort batch.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. Thank you for all the trust and support, especially thank Zero Gravity team for the continuous trust and the support for all the cohort and incubators. So yeah, I'm also very proud of them. So during this 10-week journey, I have seen massive growth on these projects. And at the beginning, some of them only have an idea, and we pivoted a lot during the middle. However, for the final demo day, I think they're all mature right now and ready to go to the next round, go to the market. And I'm really looking forward to their contribution to the entire ZOG ecosystem. Hopefully they can bring more efforts and more users to the ZOG system. Perfect. And also, so I know that ZOG raised a lot for your pre-seed round, which is 35 mil. Frankly speaking, that was one of the biggest fundraising for the entire AI Web3 industry, I would say, within this 1 year. Congratulations. Great job.
Okay.
And I have a question that, were there any tricks you'd like to share with our audience on fundraising?
Actually, for Accelerator, I gave a 1 hour kind of, I wouldn't call it a lecture, but more like insight into the psychology of kind of creating this particular round. So this can be a very deep topic, and it can even last much longer than 1 hour. But the key thing is there's certain things that are in your control, like how you set up the funding round, how you pick your leads, how you kind of practice, and then once you have the right leads in place, how do you create some of the kind of FOMO so that people really see as, okay, they're building something really meaningful. I need to be part of this. And so there's a number of things that, we can definitely talk about there. But one of the things that really helped us was also the timing in the market. So it was essentially right when people were thinking, oh, it looks like there's a bull market coming within Web3. And so the timing there was very ideal from a fundraising perspective. And on top of that, because we were building kind of this data availability layer, one of our kind of competitors, if you will, Celestia, launched on exchanges, and they did really well. And so a lot of investors felt, oh, wait, I didn't participate in those rounds. Now I have another chance. And so one of the advice is, how can you make the company that you're building in investors' minds seem like, oh, it's going to A, be a big outcome, and then B, a lot of momentum. Is there somebody that's kind of launching that they may have missed that you can peg yourself to? And so kind of that momentum really helped us. And so that's one of the key things. But then there's a lot of other things, like how do you negotiate the right deals? How do you kind of do lead selection? So it's definitely quite a lot that we can speak about there.
Definitely. Yeah, frankly speaking, during your insights for a cohort and 1 hour, I also learned a lot from you. And for all the Web3 founders out there, so if you want to learn more about these tricks and how to contribute to ZOG ecosystem, we're gonna have another batch coming soon. So please follow us, follow ZOG. And meanwhile, so I know that you've been invited to a lot of conferences and events, and I'm wondering, have you seen any very impressive projects recently?
Besides us, right?
Yeah,
Just kidding. All across the AI stack, people are building very fascinating things. What's interesting to me is that it's happening obviously in a more distributed type of setting. So there's not just a single company that's trying to build all layers of the stack, whether it's the training perspective or like the inference perspective or just some of the kind of data perspectives. So For example, Grass is doing really interesting things in terms of gathering user data that can then be used for like labeling and cleaning and then eventually training. There's some companies that are approaching distributed training like Jensen, or I think there's EXO, I think they're called as well, where you can run big models in parallel on like consumer devices. So that type of stuff is very cool and foundational. And then even at the inference level, kind of like Aura came up with this idea of OPML, to reduce the overhead necessary to run inference in a verifiable way. And so those are the types of things that are like the foundational type of breakthroughs that are going to propel the space. Now, the issue is with all that explosion, if you're new to the space and you see like, hey, there's these 100 companies, where do I even start? Somebody needs to like unify and create a coordination layer to make it really simple to be like, okay, I need to use zkML if I have high security needs, if I need to just have something that's very fast and not a lot of overhead, and it needs a streaming data platform, and I need to use, some fine tuning later on, then, maybe I need to use more TML over time with, zero G's like data platform, for example. So I think this kind of coordination layer will become more and more important as more of this creativity is going to move on chain.
Exactly. Perfect. Yeah. So next I have some fun and tricky question for you, I would say. Yeah, let's get ready for that. So my first question is that, do you think right now is already the bull market?
I've heard different perspectives on it. Some people are speculating we're still in like a consolidation phase. Others basically said like, hey, the bull market has started, but generally there's some like X amount of months after the Bitcoin halving when it officially starts. And so I think a lot of people are looking to history to see like where we are. From a personal feel perspective, I don't quite think we're like at the peak bull market, because just having been through a couple of them, like the euphoria that people experience is quite different from what I'm seeing right now. So I think there's still a lot of hope and anticipation. And then if you look at the macroeconomic conditions as well, like China and US are starting monetary easing policies, things like quantitative easing, reducing interest rates, adding stimulus to the economy. So then long tail assets like crypto should get more injections, because then retail users, again, there's easier credit and you have more cash on hand. And so it's easier to get into these kind of long tail assets. So I think we're not fully there yet, but I think we're maybe at the beginnings of a bull market, I would say.
Definitely. Yeah, I also heard a lot of different theories about it, and especially after halving and after the ETF, and right now the reduction of the interest and tax system in the United States. However, when you consider this, especially when you see the price of the Bitcoin, actually it did rise a little bit. However, right now it still goes down a little bit. So I would still believe that, like you said, right now is the beginning of the bull market, and I think it's gonna come soon. And for all the founders out there, so if you haven't started, please do it ASAP, because you want to catch up for this full run. And for all those like serial entrepreneurs out there, I believe you are already ready for this full run. So hopefully that you all can get some good traction, succeed on your fundraising. Okay, cool. So my next question is about your journey. So for this journey of zero G, have you encountered any problems or any biggest challenge you felt that it's, oh man, this is so hard? Was there any moment like this, and how did you overcome it?
Well, we started zero G in May of last year, which I would call kind of like peak bear market, if you will. And so a lot of people were kind of like, wait, you're going into Web3? I thought Web3 is dead. And I'm like, well, I think I've been through a few cycles. I kind of know how this works. And just trust me, like this is a kind of sustainable force. The power of decentralization and like true ownership of your assets is something that I've cared about probably since 2014 when I invested in some of my first Bitcoin. And so I wanted to be part of that action. Now, starting there, I basically had to be a contrarian and say like, no, I see the world differently. And so there's some element of difficulty in that, because if people have a specific shared belief system and you're basically saying, no, I believe something else is going to happen, then that in and of itself, I felt hard because I had to have enough conviction. The conviction I got from the team of Zero G, or the initial founding team. Basically, Ming and Fun are the best engineers and computer scientists I've ever worked with, and introduced by my classmate Thomas from Stanford, who invested in Conflux 5+ years ago. And that gave me really the conviction after 6 months of co-founder dating to say, no matter what the environment is, this is the team I want to build something with, because they're just, first of all, amazing people themselves, like really great value system. I got along very well with them, but also like really deep domain expertise and hyper smart in what they do. And so it really started with the team. So the big challenge was like, let's jump in. And then the second is like, what do we build? So that definitely took a bit of time to figure out, because we wanted to build something at the intersection of what are we passionate about, what's a major unlock for the space, and where do we have deep domain expertise, so some type of edge. And it took us a while to figure that out. It was non-obvious, because there's different directions, like should we go into more of a bridging direction? Should we look into more of this kind of data direction? And it took a few iterations of just talking with people in the space, hanging out with other really good founders like Sandeep from Polygon, for example, and then others in the space, to get a sense of like what is top of mind, what's a hard problem to solve, and then where do we kind of fit into the puzzle? And so as we were looking at the data availability problem, it became very clear that that's one that we need to solve if we want to put AI on chain eventually. And it just so happens that Ming actually built a decentralized storage network before, and in his spare time, and he was quite passionate about it. And then he basically saw a vision where he could utilize what he's built in order to solve data availability in a fundamentally different way. And so then we're like, okay, I think we're onto something. So let's keep exploring that more. But that whole period, like first of all, jumping into the cold water and then realizing I am in cold water. What do we do now? Like, which direction do we swim? Like, if I swim this way, maybe I get drowned. Maybe I drown. That whole process was very challenging.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I feel you, because I would say sometimes building a team, especially a reliable team, is pretty hard. Finding the right person, the right teammates. For me, I think I was lucky enough to find very reliable and helpful co-founders for all my previous stuff, and especially right now with KJ. And so my next question is mainly about the journey of a ZOD. So, frankly speaking, at the beginning of the first bloom of Web3, or we say blockchain, back in ICO era 2017, there were a lot of scams over there. And right now it became more and more mature. So I'm wondering, during the process of finding teams joining ZOD ecosystem, have you met some scams or hacks or anything very ugly? And for the founders or the traders, how to avoid that?
Yeah, I'll start by saying that I think we're still quite early from a Web3 perspective. Like if you look at AI, for example, it's had more than 6 decades of kind of research behind it and building against it, and blockchains were maybe the second decade, right? And then from another perspective, we are, around somewhere 2 trillion market cap. The total amount that can be tokenized in the world, I think, who was it? Maybe what Oliver Wyman said, it's like 800 trillion plus. So there's still a big, kind of gap between our potential and what we can do. And so you start seeing even, traditional finance companies starting to say like, hey, we're going to build stable coins. And I think there's still a lot to do in the space. So I think we're still very early. And naturally with that, it brings in a lot of experimentation. Like some things you experiment and you're like, okay, this was a great experiment, doesn't work. And for others, there's an appeal of, hey, there's like easy financing here. And most people don't fully understand what they're doing. So I can pretend like I know what I'm doing and to kind of scam people. And so it's particularly hard because it's decentralized, it's permissionless, so anybody can join kind of these networks. And so yeah, we've encountered some scammers. Luckily, nothing like super large. I mean, sometimes there's companies that basically just have the narrative, but there's nothing underneath, and they just want to do like marketing partnerships with you. And so what we've done is, hey, you actually have to, sign an LOI saying like, here's the usefulness of 0G, and then here's my commitment to actually integrate. And once I integrate, here's how I'm going to use it. So there's like reality behind just a narrative. And then there's people who are basically just try to pretend that they're a specific person on the team. And then like one of our team members, for example, lost, $1,500 because one person pretended to be Ada and said like, hey, I need some cash right away. So, this type of stuff happens, but it's not only in Web3, it happens in Web2 as well, unfortunately. There's a whole industry around it, and it's like a funnel, just like everything else. If you have a 1% hit rate, it's still pretty lucrative. And so unfortunately, people get exploited through that. But luckily, we haven't encountered it too much.
Well, that's good. That's good. Yeah. Yeah. We also met these kind of problems because, frankly speaking, OnePiece Labs was well known for our on-site events. We brought a lot of amazing people together. So for this year, we have seen several accounts on Eventbrite that fake the OnePiece Labs account. So exactly copy our style, our logo, everything. Yeah. And also for our consensus after party this year, several other people create some fake event page and sent to their audience, hey, we are OnePiece Labs, and if you want to join us, please click this link. So I believe if they click that link, it's gonna direct them into some scam or hacking stuff. So, but luckily, we knew that at a very early stage, and we posted some announcement about it. Hopefully, no one got hurt because of that. And so like we said, the good parts about Web3 that it is totally decentralized, that everyone can join us and each you their own project, whatever they like. However, the bad thing about it is also like some crash people or scam gonna happen. So we hope that this entire Web3 industry with high regulation gonna be more and more mature. So no one's gonna be hurt in this industry, hopefully. Yeah. So my next question, I only have 2 questions left, so I'm gonna let you go. And my next question is, have you seen any interesting new technology that you think that is promising to be embedded into Web3 industry?
I mean, there's kind of going back to the point of how do we make infrastructure invisible? The things that I'm particularly curious about is how do we utilize kind of intent-based architecture and embed that with agents? So that in the future, instead of saying like, okay, I want to buy this particular coin on this chain. Right now I have only Ethereum. I need to then swap Ethereum for a stable coin and then bridge that stable coin to another chain. And then on that chain, I have to use another DEX to buy that, or I have to go through a centralized exchange and do that whole transaction. Instead, in the future, you just say like, go buy me this coin. I have X amount. And then the agent can do everything for you. So I want to see this type of improvement in just the user experience. And maybe in the future, you don't even type it. You just talk to, your phone and basically say, hey, I want to get this done. Or the phone recommends to you like, hey, maybe you should invest into more cryptocurrency type of projects. So I want to see better user experiences, better user interfaces. And there's a lot that's being built, both on the intent side and then on the, you can call it chain abstraction or various other things. And then fundamental technology like bringing AI kind of fully on chain or doing things like AI alignment, utilizing blockchain technologies or doing kind of distributed computing and training. So those are the types of things that I'm watching. And so hopefully there's going to be more and more breakthroughs in that space.
Definitely. Yeah. I'd also like to share something from my end. So 1 year ago, I joined this Twitter space, and there was one technology mentioned. So people were worried about quantum computing because they believe that this is so fast. And then when it became commercialized, so it can easily hack our wallet or something. And there is this technology called anti-quantum computing or post-quantum computing that is fighting against this kind of stuff and protect our wallet. So I'm not quite sure when it will become realized or when it becomes true, but I would say these kind of a new technology definitely is very interesting. And eventually, like I said, we hope we can totally protect our users. from scams, from hacking. Yeah. And sorry, I have two more questions. I took it back. Yeah. So my next question about
post-quantum to other questions. Awesome.
yeah, there are a lot of them. Yeah. So my next question is about ZOG's future. So can you share some exciting news of ZOG and also the mainnet, and were there any another round of fundraising or anything about ecosystem? Do you have anything new to share with us?
Yeah, I won't kind of announce it before it gets fully announced, but there will be another kind of announcement around fundraising. We are planning to decentralize the network, so definitely watch out for that. We are planning on doing a node sale because we fundamentally believe that long-term participants should have an ownership stake in the network. And out of all the mechanisms that we studied, I think we like the node sale mechanism the best, because you have to do useful activity on the network to be an owner and then to benefit and support others as a result. So that's one aspect. And then the other aspect is going to be on the platform side. And the platform side is kind of building the serving layer that I mentioned, which is this kind of coordination layer, as I talked about before. And then as far as mainnet, we're looking at early next year. So definitely stay tuned for a lot of really cool announcements coming up.
Cool. Yeah, I cannot wait for that. And especially for all the audience out there. So if you are interested in more about ZOG, especially about its node sale, please check out ZOG.ai. And I believe not only you can contribute to ZOG system, but you can also benefit from it. So node sale has been a big part of Web3. So please follow us on that. And my last question, can you give all the Web3 founders some advice here?
There's so much to learn, both from just fundamental, like how do I become a good entrepreneur? How do I scale a team? How do I think about like cash burn? How do I think about kind of rainy day funds? So one of the things I recently wrote on my X was this idea that one of the key things I learned with my previous company was just like, don't die, do whatever it takes, like whatever you can do to survive from a mission standpoint, do that. So sometimes that means we had to make payroll because we sold some computer hardware, or I had to inject some of my own capital in between, like funding rounds. And so some of that is not very fun and hard as an entrepreneur, but it can happen. So always plan for rainy day. And so that taught me that I should raise more funding than I think I need, and then have enough runway to last through a full kind of like bear cycle in a Web3 terms. So that's how I kind of approach the fundraise as well. So definitely think through, what is it that you need? How many years are you planning for? Can you actually survive a bear market cycle if we enter one, let's say suddenly in a year? Because it's really hard to predict the future. Like all signs point that there's going to be a good bull market coming up in the next, few quarters, but some supply shock may happen, some other shock may happen in the world economy. You don't know. So how do you prepare for kind of rainy day scenarios like that? Definitely would overemphasize it.
Great. Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing these insights with us today. And for all the Web3 founders, especially working on AI Web3, please check out ZOG.ai. And when you go deeper into it, you're going to find it very promising, amazing. And I believe you will want to build on it. And for other users and traders out there, please note that for our today's insights, we do not provide any financial advice. And please DYOR, do your own research. Yeah. However, please wait and follow ZOG's mainnet. And I believe ZOG won't disappoint you. And so Web3 is still developing, and there was some scams out there. So please sharpen your eyes and follow the right direction, and always do the research before you want to do some decision. And we hope that for the entire Web3 industry, it's going to be more and more mature, and there will be more and more amazing infra and the apps out there that can benefit the entire human being. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, this is it for today's episode. Thank you, Michael, very much for joining us. We are looking forward to more progress from ZOG.
Yeah, very excited to be here. And anybody that's listening, join us in our mission to make decentralized AI that serves the needs of humanity. That's what we're really passionate about. And again, really glad to be partnering with OnePiece Labs on this mission.
Thank you. Let's fucking go.